What if everything you believed about Portugal's greatest footballer was actually holding Portugal back? You have heard it 1,000 times. Ronaldo is Portugal. Portugal is Ronaldo. Remove him, and the whole thing collapses like a house of cards. It is the story that has been told for 20 years, repeated by commentators, printed in headlines, whispered in press conferences. But what if that story is not just wrong? What if it is the exact reason Portugal has never won a World Cup? FIFA 2026 is here. The tournament is happening right now on North American soil, in Houston, Miami, cities that do not sleep and do not forgive weakness. And for the first time in living memory, the world is watching Portugal with a genuinely uncomfortable question hanging in the air. Not whether Ronaldo is great. Nobody doubts that. The question is this: is Portugal finally bigger than him? Let us start with the man himself, because you cannot have this conversation without honoring what Cristiano Ronaldo has done. He is 41 years old. 41. He has 143 international goals. He has 226 caps, more than any man in the history of the sport. He has carried a small nation of 10 million people on his back through 6 World Cups, through heartbreaks, through moments of individual magic that seemed physically impossible. He scored in the Nations League final last year and helped Portugal beat Spain on penalties to lift the trophy. At 41. Let that sink in. But here is the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Cristiano Ronaldo has never won a World Cup. He has played in 5 of them before this one. 5. Portugal's best result in those 5 tournaments was a semi-final finish in 2006. Not with Ronaldo at his peak. Not when he was the most dangerous striker on the planet. Not when every defender in the world feared him. They still could not get over the line. And every time Portugal came close and fell short, the conversation somehow returned to the same man. What Ronaldo did, what Ronaldo didn't do, whether Ronaldo was fit enough, whether Ronaldo was past his best. That is the shadow. And shadows, no matter how majestic, can sometimes block the light from reaching what is growing underneath. Because underneath that shadow, something extraordinary has been growing in Portuguese football. Something that the world has been so distracted by Ronaldo's legend to fully appreciate. While everyone was watching the number 7, a generation of players quietly became world-class. And in 2026, that generation is fully ripe. Look at what Portugal have brought to this World Cup. In midfield alone, they may have the best unit of any team in the tournament. Bruno Fernandes just had the finest season of his career at Manchester United, setting a Premier League record with 21 assists in a single season. He is the heartbeat, the engine, the brain. Beside him is Vitinha, who finished 3rd in the Ballon d'Or last year, a PSG maestro who controls tempo like a conductor controls an orchestra. And then there is Joao Neves, 20 years old. Already one of the most intelligent midfielders in European football, a player who reads the game like he has been playing it for 40 years. Together, these 3 are not just good. They are dangerous. They are the kind of midfield that wins World Cups. Around them, the squad is relentless. Nuno Mendes at left back, arguably the best in the world in that position. Ruben Dias as the defensive anchor, one of the most trusted centre-backs in the game. Bernardo Silva, a magician in small spaces who has been one of Manchester City's most important players for years. Rafael Leo, lightning pace, unpredictability, capable of destroying any defense on his day. Goncalo Ramos, who scored a hat-trick at the last World Cup as a substitute, now a fully established starter at PSG. Francisco Conceição, tearing through Serie A at Juventus. Pedro Neto, another threat from wide. This is not a one-man team. This is a squad. So then why does the story keep circling back to Ronaldo? Why does every preview, every match preview, every tactical breakdown begin and end with one question? How many will Cristiano score? The answer is uncomfortable but honest. Because for 20 years, Portugal allowed itself to be defined by one man. And that definition, as glorious as it was, became a trap. When Ronaldo played well, Portugal rode the wave. When he struggled, the whole team felt small. The narrative consumed the team's identity. At Euro 2024, Ronaldo went 5 games without scoring. 5 games. Portugal were clunky, uninspired, narrow in their thinking. They played as though waiting for him to turn it on rather than trusting the machinery they had built around him. They went out to France on penalties in the quarterfinals. A team with that midfield, with those attackers, knocked out before the semi-finals again. And people still debated whether Ronaldo deserved to start. They missed the real question entirely. Was the team brave enough to play as a team? Roberto Martinez, the coach, is now facing the defining challenge of his managerial career. He has publicly said that he still believes in Ronaldo. He named him captain. He gave him a squad place for a record 6th World Cup. And Ronaldo, to his enormous credit, earned it. He was the top scorer in World Cup qualifying. He still scored goals. At 41, on the biggest stage, he is still producing. That is not the issue. The issue is what happens in the knockout rounds, when games tighten, when Portugal need a goal in the 85th minute against a Brazil or a France or a Spain. Do they wait for Ronaldo to produce magic one final time? Or do they trust the system, the pressing, the combination play, the movement of Ramos and Leo and Felix, to break teams down collectively? Because here is the brutal reality of the 2026 World Cup. The best teams are not built around one player. France have Mbappé, but they survive without him. Spain win without any single superstar carrying them. Germany, Argentina, the great sides are organisms, not individuals. Portugal have the talent to be an organism. They have arguably the most talented squad in the tournament. But for as long as Ronaldo's presence demands that the team's identity be his identity, they will never truly find out what they are capable of becoming. And this is what FIFA 2026 will prove. One way or the other. If Portugal advance far, if they reach a semi-final or beyond, watch carefully. Watch whether the goals come only from Ronaldo or whether they come from Ramos, from Bruno, from Leo, from set pieces driven by Fernandes, from the chaos of Conceição on the right wing. Watch whether Martinez has the courage to take Ronaldo off when the game demands it. Watch whether the team trusts itself. If Portugal fail again, if they exit at the quarterfinals, if they lose on penalties to another heavyweight, the conversation will finally, perhaps permanently, shift. And the conclusion will not be that Portugal was nothing without Ronaldo. It will be the opposite. It will be that Portugal could never find out what it truly was because it spent 20 years believing it was nothing without him. That is the tragedy hiding inside the greatness. When a legend becomes mythology, the living struggle to breathe. But there is another possibility. A beautiful one. What if Ronaldo, in his final World Cup, chooses to be the foundation rather than the ceiling? What if the man who has scored 143 goals for his country decides that the greatest goal of his career is to lift the trophy, not as the hero, but as the captain who led a team of brilliant young men to the one prize he never claimed? What if he becomes the experience that Vitinha and Joao Neves lean on? The voice that calms the dressing room in the knockout rounds? The name that opponents fear, creating space for Leo to run into? That would not be a lesser Ronaldo. That would be a wiser one. That would be the version of Cristiano Ronaldo that Portugal has needed for years. FIFA 2026 is already underway. Portugal open against DR Congo in Houston on the 17th of June. The games are coming fast. The answers will come even faster. Portugal without Ronaldo might indeed be nothing. But Portugal because of Ronaldo, trapped inside his story, unable to write its own, that is the real danger. This tournament will prove which one it is. And whichever way it goes, football will never look at the golden era of Portuguese football the same way again. The chapter is being written right now. In Houston. In Miami. Under lights that never dim. And for the first time in 20 years, the ending is genuinely unknown.